Marcus Chen checked his weapon for the third time in 10 minutes. The other security guards on the ship laughed at him. They carried energy weapons that could cut through metal. They had shields that could stop lasers. Marcus had an old bullet gun and body armor made of metal plates. "Why do you still use that old thing?" asked Veltar, a tall blue alien with 4 arms. "Your human weapons are so basic." Marcus smiled. "Sometimes basic works best." The ship moved through space toward the Zephyrian home world. Marcus was part of the human team going to meet the alien emperor. Humans were new to the galaxy. Other species had been traveling between stars for thousands of years. Humans had only joined the big group of planets 50 years ago. Marcus looked out the window at the blue planet getting bigger. The Zephyrians were very old and very smart. They could walk through walls for a few seconds. They built cities made of crystal. They thought with pure logic and never let feelings guide them. "The princess wants to meet you humans," said Captain Rees, the ship's leader. "Emperor Kethver does not like this idea. He thinks humans are too wild and dangerous." "We are not dangerous," said Ambassador Torres, the leader of the human team. "We want peace." Marcus said nothing. He knew humans could be dangerous when they needed to be. That was why he was here. The ship landed on a platform made of green crystal. The Zephyrian city stretched out below them like a giant jewel. Tall towers rose into the clouds. Flying vehicles moved between the buildings like silver fish. "Stay close to the human team," Captain Rees told Marcus. "The Emperor's palace is very safe, but the princess asked for no heavy security. She wants to talk freely." Marcus nodded. He had studied the palace plans. 3 exits from the dining hall. 2 guard stations. Emergency alarms every 20 feet. It looked safe, but Marcus had learned never to trust looks. The human team walked through crystal halls filled with soft blue light. Zephyrian servants moved like ghosts, phasing through walls to bring food and drinks. Their leader, Ambassador Torres, talked with the other diplomats about trade and science. Princess Lorelei Vashtar waited in the dining hall. She was tall like all Zephyrians, with blue skin that seemed to glow from inside. Her eyes were silver and very large. She wore white robes that moved like water. "Welcome, humans," she said in perfect English. "I have wanted to meet your people for a long time." "We are honored, Your Highness," Ambassador Torres said with a bow. Marcus stood near the wall, watching the doors. The princess kept looking at him with curious eyes. "You are the security human," she said to Marcus. "You carry weapons that shoot metal pieces, yes?" "Yes, Your Highness." "How strange. Why not use energy weapons like everyone else?" Marcus thought for a moment. "Energy weapons are very good, Your Highness. But they can fail. Metal bullets always work." The princess smiled. "You think like a warrior, not like a diplomat. I think like someone who wants to keep people alive." The dinner began. Zephyrian servants brought food that glowed and tasted like flowers. The diplomats talked about boring things like trade routes and mining rights. Marcus watched the doors and windows. Something felt wrong, but he could not say what. The princess asked many questions about human culture. "Why do humans risk their lives for strangers?" she asked. "It makes no logical sense." Ambassador Torres tried to explain. "We believe that helping others makes us stronger as a group. But the individual might die," the princess said. "How is that logical?" Marcus spoke before he could stop himself. "Some things are more important than logic, Your Highness." The room went quiet. The Zephyrian guards looked shocked. No one questioned logic in front of the princess, but Princess Lorelei looked interested. What could be more important than logic? "Doing the right thing," Marcus said simply. Before anyone could respond, the lights went out. Emergency lighting came on, casting red shadows across the room. Alarm screamed. Marcus pulled out his gun and moved toward the princess. The Zephyrian guards reached for their energy weapons. But nothing happened when they pressed the triggers. Weapon systems are down, one guard said in panic. Communications are down, said another. Marcus grabbed the princess's arm. We need to move, now. The main doors exploded inward. Dark figures in black armor poured into the room. They carried weapons that shot crystal spears instead of energy beams. The crystal spears cut through everything they hit. Separatists, Princess Lorelei whispered. They want to kill my father and take the throne. A crystal spear flew toward the princess's head. Without thinking, Marcus threw himself in front of her. The spear hit his chest armor and bounced off with a sharp ring. His armor was made for stopping metal bullets, but it worked against crystal too. Get behind the table, Marcus shouted. He fired 3 shots from his gun. The bullets hit 2 separatists and knocked them down. The other aliens looked surprised. Their technology had stopped all the advanced weapons, but it could not stop simple bullets. More separatists came through the doors. Marcus grabbed a heavy chair and threw it at them. One fell down. Another tried to shoot Marcus, but Marcus was already moving, using tables and walls for cover. Your weapons still work, Princess Lorelei said with wonder. Sometimes simple is better, Marcus said. He fired again, forcing the attackers to take cover. The Zephyrian guards tried to help, but their weapons would not work. Their energy shields were dead. They could not phase through walls because the separatists had some kind of blocking technology, but Marcus had no technology to block. Just his gun, his armor, and his training. He moved like a human warrior, fast and unpredictable. The separatists had planned for energy weapons and shields. They had not planned for someone who would fight with hands and metal and pure stubbornness. We need to reach the emergency exit, Marcus told the princess. Stay low and follow me. He picked up the heavy crystal table and used it as a shield, pushing forward step by step. Crystal spears hit the table and stuck in it. Marcus kept moving, protecting the princess with his body and his simple human determination. The battle was just beginning. Marcus pushed the heavy table across the dining hall floor. Crystal spears stuck out of it like angry teeth. Princess Lorelei stayed close behind him, her silver eyes wide with fear and amazement. Your people fight very strangely, she whispered as Marcus stopped to reload his gun. We fight to win, Marcus said. He looked around the corner of the table. 6 separatists blocked the path to the emergency exit. More were coming through the broken main doors. The Zephyrian guards tried to help, but they looked lost without their energy weapons. They were used to fighting with technology, not with their hands. One guard picked up a broken piece of crystal and tried to use it like a knife. A separatist shot him down quickly. Ambassador Torres, Marcus called to the human diplomat who was hiding behind an overturned chair. Are you hurt? No, but I cannot reach my emergency beacon, Torres called back. They are jamming all signals. Marcus nodded. No help was coming. They were alone. A crystal spear flew over his head and hit the wall behind him. The separatists were moving closer. Marcus looked at the princess. She was trying to be brave, but he could see she was scared. Your Highness, can you still phase through walls? No, she said sadly. Their machines stop our abilities. We are trapped like you humans always are. Good, Marcus said with a grim smile. That means we fight like humans. He stood up suddenly and roared a loud battle cry that made everyone in the room freeze for a second. The sound was wild and terrifying, like an animal about to attack. Humans have been making that sound for thousands of years when they fought for their lives. While the separatists were confused, Marcus threw his empty gun at the closest one. The heavy metal weapon hit the alien in the head and knocked him down. Marcus grabbed a crystal spear from the table and charged forward. The Separatists had studied Zephyrian fighting. They knew how to fight against logical, planned attacks. But Marcus fought like a human warrior from ancient times. He was wild, unpredictable, and completely insane by their standards. He swung the crystal spear like a club, not like a proper weapon. He used it to break another spear, then threw the broken pieces at his enemies. He picked up a chair and used it as a shield and weapon at the same time. One Separatist shot at Marcus and hit him in the shoulder. The crystal spear went through his armor and drew blood. Any reasonable creature would stop fighting and ask for medical help. Marcus just got angrier. "You hurt my friends," Marcus growled. He grabbed the Separatist and threw him across the room. The alien hit the wall hard and did not get up. Princess Lirale watched in amazement. She had never seen anyone fight through pain like this. In Zephyrian culture, when you were hurt, you stopped and thought about the logical thing to do. Marcus just kept fighting. "This way," Marcus said. He had cleared a path to a side door. "Stay close and keep low." They moved toward the door, but more Separatists came around the corner. Marcus was bleeding and tired, but he did not slow down. He picked up a heavy serving tray and threw it like a weapon. It hit one alien and knocked him into another. "How are you still moving?" Princess Lirale asked. "You have lost much blood. Humans are hard to kill," Marcus said. "We don't stop until the job is done." The side door was locked. Marcus looked at it for a second, then kicked it with all his strength. The crystal door cracked but did not break. He kicked it again and again. "That is not logical," the princess said. "You will hurt your foot." "Logic can wait," Marcus said. He kicked the door a fourth time, and it finally broke open. They went through the door into a narrow hallway. Marcus was breathing hard and leaving drops of blood on the floor, but he kept moving. Behind them, they could hear the Separatists shouting and following. "Where are we going?" the princess asked. "Up," Marcus said. He found a stairway that led to higher floors. "They expect us to go down and try to escape. We go up and find a place to hide until help comes." They climbed the crystal stairs. Marcus's shoulder hurt badly, but he ignored it. The princess was not used to physical activity. She was breathing hard after just 2 floors. "I cannot go much further," she said. "Yes, you can," Marcus said firmly. "Your people might be logical, but they are also strong. You just need to find that strength." They reached the 5th floor. Marcus found a storage room filled with cleaning supplies and food for the palace. He pushed the princess inside and blocked the door with heavy boxes. "Now we wait," he said. He sat down heavily and looked at his wounded shoulder. Blood was soaking through his armor. "You need medical help," Princess Lirale said. She tore cloth from her white robes and tried to stop the bleeding. "I have had worse," Marcus said, though this was not true. The wound was deep and painful. "Why did you do this?" she asked as she worked on his shoulder. "You do not know me. I am not your people's princess. You could have escaped and let me die." Marcus looked at her silver eyes. "That is not who humans are. But it makes no logical sense. You gained nothing by saving me. You only put yourself in danger." "Some things are worth the danger," Marcus said quietly. They sat in the dark storage room and listened to the Separatists searching the floors below. Marcus's breathing was shallow and he was getting pale from blood loss, but he kept watching the door. "Tell me about human culture," the princess whispered. "Why do your people care about strangers?" Marcus thought about it. Long ago, humans lived in small groups. If someone in the group was in danger, everyone helped. The groups that helped each other survived. The groups that only cared about themselves died out. So it is evolution, not just kindness. Maybe, but it feels like kindness. Marcus smiled weakly. We call it doing the right thing. Hours passed. Marcus got weaker, but he did not complain. The princess had never met anyone like him. In her world, when someone was hurt, they logically assessed their chances and made reasonable decisions. Marcus just kept protecting her, even when it was not reasonable anymore. Finally, they heard different sounds in the hallway. Voices speaking in the coalition language, not the separatist dialect. "Rescue team," Marcus said, with relief. "We made it." The door opened and coalition soldiers came in with their weapons ready. They found Marcus barely conscious from blood loss, but still sitting between the princess and the door, ready to fight anyone who tried to hurt her. "Get him to medical," the team leader said. Now, as they carried Marcus away, Princess Lorelei watched him with new understanding. She had seen something that changed how she thought about logic, bravery, and what it meant to do the right thing. The human had taught her that sometimes the most logical thing was to ignore logic completely. Marcus woke up in a bed that felt like it was made of clouds. Soft blue light filled the medical room. Machines that he did not understand beeped quietly around him. His shoulder was wrapped in bandages that glowed slightly. "The human wakes," said a voice. Marcus turned his head and saw a Zephyrian doctor with 6 thin arms. "You should not be awake for 3 more days." "How long was I asleep?" Marcus asked. His throat felt dry. 2 days. "You lost much blood. Your bones were cracked. Your body should not work, but it keeps working anyway." The doctor sounded puzzled. "Human bodies are very strange." Marcus tried to sit up. Pain shot through his shoulder, but it was not as bad as he expected. "Do not move too much," the doctor said. "Though I suspect you will ignore this advice, like all humans seem to ignore logical advice." The door opened and Princess Lorelei walked in. She carried a small crystal pot with a plant growing in it. The plant had tiny flowers that changed colors. "You are awake," she said with a smile. "I brought you a gift from our gardens." "Thank you, Your Highness." Marcus looked at the plant. "It is beautiful. It is called a courage flower. It only grows in places where brave acts happen." She set the pot on the table next to his bed. "The palace garden has many new courage flowers since your battle." The princess sat in a chair beside his bed. "The doctor says your body should not work. He says humans are impossible." Marcus laughed, then winced as it hurt his shoulder. "We get that a lot." "I have been reading about human culture," she said. "Your history is full of people who saved others when it was not logical. You have words like hero and sacrifice that we do not really understand. What words do your people use?" "Efficient, logical, optimal." She looked sad. "We do not have words for doing something because it feels right instead of because it makes sense." Over the next few days, Princess Lorelei visited Marcus every morning and evening. She brought books about human history and asked many questions. She wanted to understand why humans would die for strangers, why they created art that served no purpose, and why they cried when sad instead of just solving their problems. "Your people fought wars where thousands died to save one person," she said one evening. "Why would they waste so many lives for one life?" "Because that one person mattered," Marcus said simply. "Every person matters. But mathematically, one life is worth less than thousands. Math is not everything, Your Highness." She was quiet for a long time. "In my culture, if saving me cost more than I was worth to the Empire, the logical choice would be to let me die." "That is a sad way to live," Marcus said gently. "I am starting to think you are right." The princes began to change during their talks. She started asking questions about human emotions, human art, and human love. She read poetry and stories from Earth. She even tried to understand human music, though it sounded very strange to her ears. "My father is coming," she told Marcus on his 5th day in the medical center. He wants to see the human who saved me. Will he be angry? I do not know. He is grateful that you saved my life. But he is worried about the changes in me. What changes? The princess smiled sadly. I told him that I think our empire is missing something important. I said we should learn from humans about courage and kindness and doing things because they are right, not just because they are logical. What did he say? He said you had infected me with human thinking. Emperor Kethfer of Ashtar arrived the next morning with a group of guards in gold armor. He was taller than his daughter and older, with skin that was almost white instead of blue. His silver eyes were sharp and cold. Human, he said when he entered Marcus's room. The word sounded like a title he was not sure he wanted to give. Your Imperial Majesty, Marcus said. He tried to bow from his bed. You saved my daughter's life. Yes, sir. Why? Marcus thought about the question. It was the same thing everyone asked him. Because it was the right thing to do. Right by whose measure? By any measure that values life. The Emperor studied Marcus for a long time. My guards tell me you fought like a mad creature. You ignored your wounds and continued to battle, even when logic said you should surrender. I had a job to do. Your job was to protect the human diplomatic team. My daughter was not part of that job. Marcus met the Emperor's eyes. Any decent person would have done the same thing. No, the Emperor said sharply. Any decent person would have made the logical choice to save themselves and as many others as possible. You chose to risk everything for one individual. That is not logical. You are right, Your Majesty. It was not logical. Yet you did it anyway. Yes. The Emperor was quiet for several minutes. Finally, he said, my daughter speaks of you often. She says you have taught her new ways of thinking. She is very smart, Your Majesty. She learns quickly. That is what worries me. The Emperor moved closer to Marcus's bed. For 10,000 years, my people have ruled through logic and reason. We make decisions based on facts and efficiency. It has brought us peace and prosperity. That sounds like a good system. It is. It is. But my daughter now speaks of doing things because they feel right instead of because they are logical. She talks about sacrifice and heroism and other human concepts that serve no practical purpose. Marcus did not know what to say to that. She has asked me to change the laws of our empire to be more like human laws. She wants to add concepts like justice and mercy to our legal system. Is that bad? The Emperor stared at Marcus. I do not know. And that frightens me more than the separatist attack did. He turned to leave, then stopped. You will recover fully, the doctors tell me. Yes, sir. Good. When you are well, we will speak again. There are traditions my people follow when someone saves a royal life with such valor. What kind of traditions? But the Emperor was already leaving. Princess Lorelei stayed behind. What traditions? Marcus asked her. She looked excited and nervous at the same time. Old laws from when our people were warriors instead of just thinkers. Laws about proving worth and earning honor. That sounds serious. It is very serious, she said. If you pass the tests, you become part of our people forever. And if I fail? Princess Lorelei's smile faded. Humans are not supposed to be able to pass Zephyrian tests. They were made for our abilities, not yours. Marcus felt a cold worry in his stomach. He had saved the princess, but he might have put himself in more danger than he realized. 2 weeks later, Marcus stood in the great crystal hall of the Emperor's palace. His shoulder was healed, but still stiff. Hundreds of Zephyrians watched from the viewing platforms above. He had never seen so many of the tall blue aliens in one place. Emperor Kethfer sat on a throne made of living crystal that grew and changed shape as they watched. Princess Lorelei stood beside him, her silver eyes worried. Marcus, Chun of Earth, the Emperor's voice echoed through the hall. By the ancient laws of our people, you have earned the right to attempt the trials of Orthek. These tests will determine if you are worthy to be called a true friend of the Zephyrian Empire. Marcus nodded. I understand, Your Majesty. Do you? The Emperor leaned forward. These trials were created for our people, not yours. They test abilities you do not have. Logic you may not understand. If you fail, you will be sent away from our worlds forever. And if I succeed, that remains to be seen. The Emperor gestured to a door that opened in the crystal wall. The first trial awaits. Marcus walked through the door into a room filled with a maze made of crystal walls. The walls were twice as tall as Marcus and too smooth to climb. The maze seemed to go on forever in all directions. Find the center of the maze. The Emperor's voice came from speakers in the ceiling. Zephyrians can phase through the walls. You cannot. Most humans would find this impossible. Marcus smiled. Most humans have not spent years studying alien buildings. He walked to the nearest wall and pushed against it. Solid crystal, just as expected. But Marcus had learned something during his time on the ship and in the palace. Zephyrian crystal was grown, not carved. That meant it had patterns, like wood grain or rock layers. Marcus studied the walls carefully. After a few minutes, he found what he was looking for. Small lines in the crystal that showed how it had grown. These lines would lead back to the center where the crystal had started growing. Instead of trying to walk through the maze, Marcus followed the growth lines. Sometimes this meant climbing over walls using cracks and ledges. Sometimes it meant crawling under walls that did not quite touch the ground. It took an hour, but he reached the center of the maze without getting lost once. The Zephyrians in the viewing platforms murmured in surprise. They had expected him to wander the maze for days. Interesting approach, the Emperor said. The second trial. The next room was cold. Not just cold, but the kind of freezing that made Marcus's breath turn to ice crystals immediately. The floor was covered in thick ice. The air was thin like on top of a mountain. Zephyrians can slow our body functions to survive extreme cold, the Emperor explained. You must cross this room and ring the bell at the far end. Most humans would freeze to death in minutes. Marcus looked around the room. It was designed to test the Zephyrian ability to enter a kind of hibernation. But humans had their own ways of surviving cold. He started moving immediately. Exercise would keep his blood flowing and his body warm. He did jumping jacks, push-ups, and ran in place. The Zephyrians watched in confusion as Marcus turned survival into a workout. Halfway across the room, he found pieces of metal and cloth that had been left by previous test takers. Marcus quickly built a small shelter using his knowledge of emergency survival. He made a fire using the friction method that human scouts had used for thousands of years. The Zephyrians had never seen fire used for warmth. They used energy heaters or just endured the cold with logic. But Marcus's simple fire worked perfectly. He crossed the room in 30 minutes, exercising and building small fires to stay warm. When he rang the bell at the far end, he was sweating instead of freezing. Again, unexpected, the Emperor said, though Marcus could hear something like approval in his voice. The third trial was different. Marcus found himself in a comfortable room with a chair and a table. On the table was a crystal device that showed pictures and text. This is a test of logical thinking, the Emperor said. You will be given problems that require pure logic to solve. Emotion and instinct will only make you fail. Zephyrians trained for years to think with perfect logic. The first problem appeared on the screen. It was about a burning building with 5 people inside. Marcus could only save 3 people. The test wanted him to choose which 3 based on their age, job importance, and social value. Marcus stared at the problem for a long time. Any Zephyrian would calculate the logical answer quickly. Save the youngest, most valuable people for society. Instead, Marcus touched a different answer. Save the 3 people closest to the door, regardless of who they were. Incorrect, the device said. Logic requires saving the most valuable individuals. The next problem was similar. A food shortage where Marcus had to decide who got fed. The logical answer was to feed the people who could work and produce more food. Marcus chose to feed the hungry children first. Incorrect. Problem after problem. Marcus chose the emotional answer over the logical one. He saved people because they needed help, not because they were valuable. He helped the weak instead of the strong. He made decisions based on what felt right instead of what made mathematical sense. After an hour, the device shut off. Test complete. Score: 0 correct answers. Marcus heard gasps from the viewing platforms. He had failed completely. But Princess literally was smiling. The Emperor appeared in the room, walking through the crystal wall like a ghost. You failed every single question. Yes, Your Majesty. You chose emotion over logic every time. Yes, Your Majesty. Why? Marcus thought about his answer. Because logic without heart is not wisdom. It is just math. The Emperor was quiet for a long time. The separatists who attacked us were perfectly logical. They calculated that killing my daughter was the most efficient way to take power. Their plan was flawless. But wrong, Marcus said. Yes, wrong. The Emperor looked at Marcus with new respect. They failed because they could not predict human behavior. They could not understand someone who would risk everything for a stranger. The Emperor gestured, and Princess Lorelei came into the room. My daughter has been studying human philosophy. She tells me that sometimes the logical choice is not the right choice. She is very wise. Your Majesty, she is becoming wise in ways that our culture does not teach. The Emperor looked at his daughter with pride and worry. You have taught her that there are different kinds of strength. She taught me things too, Your Majesty. About thinking clearly and staying calm under pressure. Interesting. The Emperor smiled for the first time since Marcus had met him. Perhaps there is value in combining our approaches. Princess Lorelei stepped forward. Father, may I speak? Of course. Marcus did not fail the trials. He passed them in the only way that mattered. He showed that human ways can work just as well as Zephyrian ways, sometimes better. The Emperor nodded slowly. Yes, I am beginning to see that. He turned to Marcus. There is one more trial, human. The most important one. Marcus straightened. I am ready, Your Majesty. This trial is not for you. It is for me. Marcus looked confused. I must decide whether to trust my daughter's judgment about you and your people, the Emperor said. That is the hardest test of all. The great crystal hall filled with more Zephyrians than Marcus had ever seen. Representatives from other worlds came too. News of the human who had saved the princess and survived the impossible trials had spread across the galaxy. Marcus stood before the Emperor's throne, wearing formal clothes that the palace staff had made for him. They were simple by Zephyrian standards, but they felt strange to someone used to military uniforms. Emperor Kethver looked different today. Less cold, more thoughtful. Princess Lorelei stood beside the throne, her silver eyes bright with hope and worry. 3 days ago, the Emperor began, his voice carrying to every corner of the hall. This human completed the trials of Vorthik in ways no one expected. He did not pass by following our methods. He succeeded by using human methods that achieved the same goals. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Many Zephyrians had never heard of humans solving problems without technology and logic. But completing the trials is only part of this ceremony, the Emperor continued. By our most ancient laws, anyone who saves a royal life with such courage and sacrifice earns the right to ask for a reward. Marcus Chun of Earth, what do you wish? Marcus had thought about this moment for days. He could ask for money, technology, or safe passage home. He could ask for trade agreements that would make Earth rich. But standing here, looking at Princess Lorelei and remembering their conversations, he knew what really mattered. Your Majesty, Marcus said clearly, I ask for understanding between our peoples. Not just trade or treaties, but real friendship. A chance for humans and Zephyrians to learn from each other. The Emperor smiled slightly. That is a wise request, but it is not mine to give alone. He stood up from his throne, and the entire hall went silent. The decision belongs to my daughter. She has studied your people more than anyone. She understands what you offer and what it might cost. Princess Lorelei stepped forward. Father, I have watched this human show courage that our people call impossible. I have learned about human culture and values. I believe our empire would be stronger if we combined Zephyrian logic with human heart. And what form should this alliance take? The Emperor asked. The strongest form possible, the princess said, her voice steady despite the importance of her words. Marcus Chun has proven himself worthy of joining our royal family. I ask that he be declared my intended bonded partner and given full citizenship in our empire. The hall exploded with surprised voices. Even Marcus looked shocked. This was much more than he had expected. You would bind yourself to a human? Asked a Zephyrian lord from the crowd. Your children would be half alien. My children would be half human, Princess Lorelei corrected proudly. They would have the best of both worlds. Zephyrian logic and human compassion. Advanced technology and the ability to make impossible choices when necessary. The Emperor held up his hand for silence. This is not just about marriage, he said seriously. This is about the future of our people. If I approve this bond, I am saying that humans have something valuable to offer an empire that has ruled for 10,000 years. He looked directly at Marcus. Human, do you accept this proposal? Do you understand what it means? Marcus felt overwhelmed. He had come here as a security guard, just doing his job. Now he was being offered a place in an alien royal family and a chance to bridge two worlds. Your Majesty, Marcus said carefully, I would be honored to marry Princess Lorelei if she truly wants this. But I want to be sure this is about more than just paying a debt. I want this to be about building something good for both our peoples. Princess Lorelei smiled. Marcus, you have already taught me that the most important decisions are made with the heart, not just the head. My heart tells me this is right. The Emperor looked around the hall at his people. Many looked uncertain. Change was always scary, especially for a culture based on careful logic. I have made my decision, the Emperor announced. Marcus Chun has proven that human methods can work alongside Zephyrian methods. His courage saved my daughter. His wisdom passed trials that should have been impossible for his species. His character has earned my daughter's respect and affection. He gestured to Marcus to come closer. By the ancient laws of our empire, I declare Marcus Chun to be Prince Marcus of the Royal House of Vashtar. He is granted full citizenship, full rights, and the hand of my daughter in marriage, if both agree freely. The hall erupted again, but this time with more cheers than complaints. Many Zephyrians had watched Marcus's trials and been impressed by his different way of solving problems. But this is about more than one marriage, the Emperor continued. This is the beginning of a new age. I hereby establish the Human Zephyrian Alliance. We will share our technology with Earth. In return, humans will teach us about courage, sacrifice, and making decisions with both logic and heart. An old Zephyrian counselor stood up. Your Majesty, how do we know this alliance will work? The Emperor gestured to Marcus and Princess Lorelei. Look at them. A human who thinks with logic when needed, and a Zephyrian who has learned to feel with her heart. They are proof that our peoples can become stronger together. Marcus took Princess Lorelei's hand. It felt strange, but right. Your Majesty, I have one more request. Speak. I want other humans to come here and learn. And I want Zephyrians to visit Earth. Not just diplomats and scientists, but regular people. Friendship happens between individuals, not just governments. Agreed, the Emperor said. The first exchange groups will begin within a year. That evening, after all the ceremonies and celebrations, Marcus and Princess Lorelei walked in the palace gardens. The courage flowers that she had told him about were blooming everywhere, their colors bright in the soft twilight. Are you sure about this? Marcus asked. Marriage to a human will change your life completely. I am certain, she said. You saved my life, but more than that, you saved my way of thinking. Before I met you, I thought logic was everything. Now I know that wisdom needs both logic and feeling. And I learned from you too, Marcus said. Sometimes stepping back and thinking clearly is better than just charging ahead. They sat on a bench made of glowing crystal. Above them, the stars were coming out, including a small yellow star that was Earth's sun. Our children will be interesting, Princess Lorelei said thoughtfully. Part human, part Zephyrian. They will think in ways that neither of our species has thought before. They will be the first of something new, Marcus agreed. A bridge between worlds. Do you think this alliance will really work? She asked. Marcus looked around at the crystal city that was starting to feel like home. It will work because we want it to work. Both our peoples have something valuable to offer. Humans have courage and heart. Zephyrians have wisdom and technology. Together, we can do things that neither could do alone. Princess Lorelei smiled and leaned against his shoulder. Just like you did during the attack. You did something impossible by refusing to accept that it was impossible. Sometimes the best solutions come from not knowing something cannot be done. In the distance, they could see ships landing at the spaceport. Some carried humans coming to learn about Zephyrian culture. Others carried Zephyrians heading to Earth to study human society. The alliance was already beginning. And at its heart was a simple truth that Marcus had proven during his first day on this world. Sometimes the most logical thing to do is to follow your heart and protect the people who need protecting. The human had shielded the princess. And in doing so, he had built a bridge between the stars.